Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
People sure are divisive about Man of Steel. The people that like it just fine and don't tend to go overboard. But the people that don't like it or hate it tend to hate it even after 3 years and bring up in conversations even when no one is talking about Man of Steel. At times there seems to be a 50-50 split of whether it's a good movie or a bad movie, but maybe because the people that hate it seem to be louder than the people that enjoyed it, we seem to think that more people hate it than not. It just seems that the thoughts about it on the internet are more negative than positive. I can understand this a bit. After seeing the film 3 years ago, I was conflicted. I couldn't tell you if I liked it or not, even several days after seeing the film, but after weighing the pros and cons, I realized I did enjoy it. I've seen it several times afterwards and I've actually enjoyed it a little more each time. So with Batman vs Superman coming out soon and with the strong lingering negative feelings of Man of Steel, I decided to take another look at it, measuring the pros and cons and examining each side of the argument. Let's first take a look at the film's look. The look of the film is, I'm thinking, probably a studio mandate. Previous Zack Snyder films visually did have darker tones, but they also had a very colorful palette. But the darker tint is always there, so it really shouldn't be that much of a surprise. But I believe the main visual influence was from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight films. The Dark Knight films were at their height popularity-wise, and while the DC superhero universe as it is right now couldn't exist in the world of the Dark Knight films, the studio probably felt the general audience wanted a darker visual tone. Don't believe me? Batman vs Superman has a darker tone, but also from what we've seen from Wonder Woman, that darker tone is gonna keep going, and it looks like it's gonna be that way for the rest of the DC movie films. Let's take a look at Ma and Pa Kent. I can understand that people were shocked and disappointed when Ma and Pa seemed selfish and harsh in wanting Clark to do nothing. Keep in mind, this is their child and they want to protect him. Any parent would. People's negativity to this seemed to be because of people's previous expectations of the characters. In some ways, previous iterations were just one note. Here they behave as any concerned, loving parent would. They want their child to fit in the world and they only want the best for him. Yes, I know Clark is Superman and he is invulnerable, but Ma and Pa want to protect him emotionally as well. Also, they believe that Clark is destined for great things, but they want him to show what he can do when he's ready. Next, too much destruction, or the destruction of Smallville and Metropolis, and Superman should have found a better way. Here's the thing, he saved the planet. Did people forget that? The world engine Zod and crew brought to Earth was going to kill all life on the planet and then remake it only habitable for Kryptonians. He destroyed it, so while he did lose a few battles, the world was saved. Also, he's only one man. He needed help to defeat the invading force. But he's Superman and Superman always finds a better way. How? Clark was Superman for less than 24 hours. He's in his very first fight ever and is facing off against people at least as powerful as he is, and were literally born and bred for conquering, fighting, and killing. So please explain to me how someone with 0% fighting experience is going to be able to easily handle superpowered soldiers on his level or beyond. Well, Superman kills Zod in Man of Steel. And he should have found a better way of defeating him. How? At that moment, how was he going to stop Zod? I have an idea of how the film could have ended, but I'll go into that a little bit later. He's fighting someone who has more combat experience than him and who's also growing more powerful as the fight goes on. Let's say Clark broke Zod's back instead. Zod's gonna recover and he's gonna be back to wanting to destroy the world again. It's gonna be just one big destructive loop. And also keep in mind, there isn't any facility on the planet that can hold Zod. Also, and as for destroying Smallville and Metropolis, keep this in mind. Clark did try to have the fight away from Metropolis and Smallville, but Zod kept coming back. And we wanted to put those people in danger because he knew that Clark would be at a disadvantage. So it's not that Clark didn't just want to fight somewhere else safer. He tried and failed, which makes sense when you consider who he's going up against. Now, after watching the film several times, here's some pros and cons I had with it. Con: it's an origin story. It would have been more interesting to see maybe a montage of his origin like they did in the earlier sequels, and then start Clark already as Superman. Or heck, he could still be in his first year as Superman, have it be a Superman year one type of story. But I guess you don't pay to have Russell Crowe to be only in a montage. Pro, the art design, costuming, and effects. They looked very believable, and I enjoyed the original take on Krypton as well. Typically, Krypton comes off as a very cold or stagnant place. Here it actually looks very organic, varied in design, and a bit alien. The different environments on Krypton look amazing. It also helped my engagement in the film. Pro, the acting and Zod. It was really good, and with the occasional exception, I didn't have any problems with the acting. Now, there are people that didn't enjoy or believe Michael Shannon's performance as Zod. Not me. I understood the motivation, and hell, on Krypton, both he and Jor-El were right. It's just that Jor-El tried to advance the issues through less aggressive means. There were times that I did sympathize with Zod's cause. Yes, he doesn't give a damn about Earth, but consider that his planet and culture are gone, and he wants to save and create a new home for his people. Think of the Fam Zone criminals and the Codex as immigrants looking for a new home. Now, this next one is a pro and con. Lois. Lois was a stronger character in the first half of the story than the second half. I don't fault Amy Adams, I fault the script and direction. Lois starts the film as being very capable, and then it goes down from hill from there. At first, I didn't have as much an issue with her being saved as much as she was. It's part of her character to run into danger for the story, and at the start of the film, she proves she can handle the military. But superhumans are another issue. So that was believable, but then it got repetitive. Pro, Clark. Some say his character was underwritten. I don't feel that way. This movie wasn't just an origin story, it's a coming of age story. We the audience see Clark battle with his insecurities and trying to find his purpose in the world. I found this relatable, and I don't understand people's issue with this. Did they think that he would appear as the way he does in other media right off the bat? Previous versions of the character were of a person more mature and seasoned. It's unrealistic to put those expectations on a character that is just now starting to develop. Con, the other characters. Some characters didn't fare as well. Laura, Perry White, Jenny Olsen. Jenny was worthless. She did nothing, and I doubt she even said an entire paragraph in the entire film. Next con, the direction and storytelling. Sometimes the direction seemed haphazard. There are times when there's too many flashbacks, even flashbacks within flashbacks. Also, Zack Snyder is known for being more style over substance. So things like story, characterizations, and so on in his films tend to be weak. There is a case of that in here too, but it's not as glaring as with 300 and Sucker Punch. Man of Steel is possibly his best directed film. A big reason for that, I imagine, is because Christopher Nolan produced and co-wrote the script. Back to the cons though. Certain scenes run too long. The most obvious example is the end fight scene. Well, at least John Peters finally got his Superman fight with a spider scene. Pro, the direction. I know earlier I said that this is Zack Snyder's best movie. I say that not just because of the look of the film or the special effects, but how certain scenes are acted. Example, when Clark is at school and his powers are activating, and how Ma Kent is able to talk him down. It was this scene that made me believe their relationship for the rest of the film. Any scene with Pa Kent and Clark were great as well. The best scene of the two was when Pa was telling Clark about the day they found him. Pa is saying things like how he has an important destiny and can change the world, while Clark just wants to be normal and be his son. It's a touching scene. I know people will say this has more to do with the actors than the director, but it's the director's job to put the actors in the best position to succeed. Well, that's all good and everything, but when people talk about why they hate Man of Steel, there are a few reasons. One being Superman killing Zod, the mass destruction, and how long the fight was. The main question people ask is, why did Clark have to kill Zod? Well, I explained that earlier, but did you know that Christopher Nolan had an issue with the ending too? Per writer David S. Goyer on the Empire podcast, Zod was originally supposed to be sucked into the Fam Zone along with the other Kryptonians. Snyder and Goyer disliked this and found it unfulfilling. Here's a quote from the comic book resources article on June 18th, 2013. We started questioning, we talked to some of the people at DC Comics and said, do you think there is ever a way that Superman would kill someone? And at first they said, no way, no way. And we said, but what if he didn't have a choice? Originally, Chris didn't even want to let us try to write it, and Zach and I said, we think we can figure out a way that you'll buy it. Later in the article, Snyder explained what he told Nolan, quoting, I really think we should kill Zod, and I really think Superman should kill him. And the why of it was, for me, that if this is truly a origin story, his aversion to killing is unexplained. It's just in his DNA. I felt we needed him to do something, just like putting on the glasses, or going to a Daily Planet, or any of those other things that you're sort of seeing for the first time that you realize will then become like his thing. I felt like if we can find a way of making it impossible for him, like the Kobayashi Maru, totally no way out, I felt that we could also make you go, okay, this is the why of him not killing ever again, right? He's basically obliterated his entire people and his culture, and he is responsible for it, and he's just like, how could I ever kill again? Unquote. After this, Nolan was on board. I understand that people will counter that that's a stupid reason and that any normal person isn't going to kill, but could you really figure out a better way? Or is just zapping Zod into the fam zone good enough? I was initially conflicted with this choice, but I'm okay with it only if Clark doesn't kill again. If he goes up against Bizarro or Brainiac and kills them, then the Zod death will lose its meaning. Also, let's remember that Clark wasn't joyful when he killed Zod. It tore him to pieces. One final thing. I do believe at some point in Batman vs. Superman, it's important for Clark to become the Superman that everyone expects and wants him to be. To be the man that inspires the world with hope and dignity. If we don't reach that point in this movie, then that retroactively hurts Man of Steel, because at the end of Man of Steel, it promised the audience of the man Clark would eventually be. Fingers crossed. Write down below what you think about this video and what you think about this topic. Please be nice, don't be insulting or anything. And until my next video, goodbye.